Welcome back to the Active Listener, and today we have Claire Harris back with us, who's going to be sharing some very useful information about mental health.
So I'm Claire Harris, I'm a health psychologist and I run a training and consultancy business around mental health. What we're going to be talking about today is why focus on mental health in the workplace, why is it important, and what can workplaces actually do to embed mental health.
So I guess the first thing is why should businesses be focusing on mental health?
Everyone has a mental health and it can be impacted by many different things. We're seeing in the workplace stress levels are higher, we're seeing burnout, we're seeing people going off work as well. Mental illness is the top reason for long-term sickness absence at the moment. And in the last few years, that's overtaken musculoskeletal for being the main reason off. It's costing businesses a huge amount in terms of job losses. We're not retaining staff, lack of productivity and illness. So the cost in 2019 was 45 billion and in 2021 it was 56 billion, and that has been steadily increasing over the last few years.
Is there any kind of understanding why it is becoming increased?
I think there are a number of reasons. I think just pressure. If the pressure of the workplace is increasing, that's having an impact on mental health. Our lives are stressful generally. We're kind of switched on 24/7. Their expectations are high. If we're focusing on mental health in the workplace, it's kind of fundamental. Our people are our main asset in the workplace, so we need to be supporting their well-being. A lot of people who are looking for jobs, we've got younger generations coming through now. When they're asking in job interviews, how are you going to look after my mental health? That is definitely a new thing we're seeing in recruitment. And if we make sure we're making the workplace a safe space, psychological safety is a new term which we can come on to talk about. If the culture at work is where people feel accepted and open and that they belong, then we're going to have better increased productivity, we're going to retain staff, and we're going to have reduced sickness absence as well. So that's why it's key. Those are the things that are costing businesses money, and if we invest in mental health, it's going to be beneficial for the business.
And I think that's a really good point, isn't it? It's not just about looking after people it's a nice thing to do. There is actually a real practical business argument in terms of cold hard money, I suppose.
There is.
Cynical.
Yeah. So although well-being is often seen as a fluffy thing, is it an add-on? It's actually fundamental to business because in terms of productivity and cost, businesses need to meet their targets and they need to make money essentially. As we were talking about it, it's really important for that as well. We know that if every pound that we invest in mental health gives a return on investment of £5.30. So we know it's in terms of cost, it's beneficial, but also we want to retain our staff. We want people to feel happy in the workplace. We want them to, do well in their jobs and be productive. And we need to work on that workplace culture in order to do that.
It's interesting what you were saying there earlier about there almost being a shift in expectations in terms of people who are coming into the workplace, that there's a genuine question, well, what are you going to do about this? Because in terms of supporting, I think for a lot of people it's still a nicety. Well, that's working for you. You take care of it, but I'll get on with what I need to get on with.
Yeah, it is seen as a nicety, but what we are seeing in the workplace, as we said, kind of burnout and stress levels. So we're seeing two things: presenteeism and leavism. Presenteeism is where we've got someone in the job role, they're actually at work, but they're not working at their usual level because they're struggling with their well-being a little bit, with their mental health. We're also seeing leavism, where in order to manage the job role, people are working on their days off or they're taking annual leave to catch up on emails. So again, at that stage where performance is going to start to slip because the pressure is coming up too much. So that's why it really is important that it's not an add-on and that it's kind of fundamental and added into the business.
To unpack that a little bit, you were talking there, I suppose the way I'd refer to it is being authentic self, being comfortable. Explain a little bit what you mean by that in terms of its impact on mental health.
It's a new kind of buzz term now that's being used around psychological safety, and that's related to workplace culture. Psychological safety is, do people feel comfortable being who they are within the workplace? Do they feel respected? Do they feel that they've got a choice to express all the parts of who they are? Do they feel comfortable doing that in the workplace? Can they have conversations about their mental well-being and their stress levels if they're struggling. So that workplace culture makes a huge difference. If you've got a culture where it's get your head down, you meet your targets, no complaining, you may well be functioning for a certain period of time, but you're going to get people burning out. You're going to get people who don't feel they can tell you when they're struggling. A more open workplace culture where there's psychological safety, where people feel there's trust and open communication, that workplace is going to function a lot better. People are going to feel like they belong to it, that that there's trust within the organisation, that they feel like they can have an open conversation about any of those things when they're struggling.
I guess what we're talking about is cultural change. People that I coach, both in terms of individuals and at group level, change is something we talk about quite a lot. How would you go about doing such a thing in terms of culture and what people's expectations are and what their mindsets are?
The workplaces that I work with are starting at different points, and there are various things that we can put in place. I tend to get called in, can we upskill our staff? Because I go in at a training consultancy point. Ideally, what it would be is that workplaces have a mental health and wellbeing plan. They have an approach for the whole workplace with senior management sign up. So we've got someone at the top who is saying, workplace needs to be, mental health needs to be embedded within the workplace. We value our colleagues and we want to make sure we have that good workplace culture. So that's one way of doing things. Other ways is within that, or before and kind of bottom up working, is to train up and support your managers and employees. So you can go in and upskill, particularly managers find it difficult to know how to start those conversations. But it's the very simple techniques, like just in one-to-ones and appraisals, asking how that employee is doing. So yes, are we looking at KPIs and targets, but also, an add-on within that, how are things for you at the moment? How is your work-life balance? That depends again on the workplace culture. Some workplaces may never have had those conversations. Others may have already been adding that into conversations they're having with employees. If you've trained up mental health first aiders, or you've got wellbeing champions, for example, using those roles to role model within the workplace, they will speak openly and use the right language around mental health, behave in the right ways where they're making sure they're not doing emails out of hours, making sure they practice self-care and taking time out. And we can link a lot of this work to national campaigns. So we've got one coming up in March the 12th is My Whole Self Day, run by Mental Health First Aid. That is very much about bringing, what do you feel comfortable about yourself bringing that to work? So in terms of gender, sexual orientation, racial equalities, what do you feel comfortable presenting in the workplace? There's lots of little tools around that we can use.
I guess this is also sort of gives an indication the importance of top down, in terms of leadership, the empowerment of people, teams, and having initiatives like wellbeing champions and so on. Is there anything else you would suggest in terms of what businesses can actually do?
Yeah, so I think ideally we would have a top-down approach, but many businesses aren't there. Often I'm going into sort of support around training, or we're training up first aiders or wellbeing champions. And then it's almost, we're working kind of middle or bottom upwards. So it's for those people to, it's a slow process changing that workplace culture, but starting to support those around them, feeding back the benefits of things that they're doing, putting in, we wouldn't, campaign days are great, but it's not really just a tick box. Mental health isn't a tick box exercise. So we can't say, okay, we've trained up a group and we've done a campaign day, we're done. But those are places that we can start. So we can start at those areas and kind of work up. I would definitely say in team conversations, one-to-ones or team meetings, just to have it in at the end as a check-in or at the beginning. So even if we're working hybrid and we're having meetings online, we can just say, what's everyone up to at the weekend? How was the weekend for everyone? Something we're looking forward to in the next week. There are tools from My Whole Self that are available for that campaign in March. So we've got a My Whole Self MOT. So that's a little poster that we can put up or use just to say, how's my mental health today? Am I looking after my well-being? What's my thinking like? So like little sentence starters, I guess, or questions.
Thank you, Claire. So if people want to reach out to you, how do they go about doing that?
They can contact me via email or my website, LinkedIn, and also YouTube channel as well, which I think will be below.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'll pop that in the links below.
Okay. Great, thank you.